I have spent so much of my time focusing on reaching the next goal and focusing on becoming the next best version of myself that there are a lot of moments that I look back and realize that I never lived momentarily. I never embraced being imperfect. I always just focused on external factors to feel internally happy with myself, to actually feel fulfilled. And now that I'm approaching my later 20s, I look back on the past few years and realize there are so many moments that I don't remember. There are so many moments that I wish I embraced more, that I wish I lived momentarily, that I allowed myself to just be imperfect in that moment and still enjoy it. I really want to talk about this because I think it's an important aspect of growth that a lot of people don't bring attention to. That part of becoming a better version of yourself and reaching goals in your life or dreaming bigger doesn't mean that it's going to fulfill you. It doesn't mean that it's going to make you happy. It needs to be an extension of your own internal happiness first. I'm approaching a season of my life where I'm learning to embrace this more. I'm learning to embrace being imperfect, making mistakes, and still understanding that I am standing in a version of myself that my younger self used to pray to be, and that I have results that I used to want. But none of that matters if I'm not happy with myself, if I'm not internally fulfilled. And I need to learn to provide that for myself regardless of what's going on around me, regardless if I'm still waiting for the next chapter. I need to learn to embrace this chapter as I am. Living in a fast paced city where people are always achieving their goals and always being successful and reaching the next best version of themselves, I realize that there is a need to embrace deeper fulfillment. A lot of these people don't express themselves once they've reached a certain status in life, once maybe they've achieved everything that they've ever wanted, because we can have everything that we want, but what it really comes down to is being happy within ourselves, being able to sit with ourselves and still be content with our life, even if we didn't have everything externally that we've achieved. I know it sounds so cheesy and that people say this all the time, but it really is about embracing the present moment. It's about enjoying who you're becoming, learning to embrace the process that it takes to reach everything that you want, because life really is a journey. It's not about the destination, it's not about what we get to, it's about who we're being while we are getting there, learning to still be content with ourselves throughout the process of it. Yes, there are many things externally that can bring us happiness, but a lot of it is temporary happiness, temporary fulfillment, feeling content in the moment that we achieve something. But the next thing is that we start focusing on, okay, what's next? What's the next thing that's going to bring me fulfillment? I spent a lot of my time in my 20s chasing so many goals in my life, always waiting for the next best version of myself, always waiting to feel like the next thing is going to make me happy, that I'm going to finally feel fulfilled. But every single time that I reached that next goal, guess what happened? I just kept focusing on more things. And then I started to realize there was never going to come a magic moment where I felt content in my life, where I felt fulfilled, where I felt genuinely happy with myself. That is a skill that I have to learn to develop, is that regardless if I'm making mistakes, regardless if I'm being imperfect or not having the goals that I want for myself, or feeling behind in my life, I can still be happy. I can still be content and realize that I'm with myself throughout this journey. And if I abandon myself throughout that process, then nothing external will ever satisfy that need. It will always just be about raising the bar. And at one point, there has to be a line that's drawn that we realize no matter how much we raise our standards, raise the bar, or continuously dream bigger, while that's important, and of course we should do that, it should not be the determining factor of joy in our life. That is up to us. We need to create joy because who we are being and how content we are with ourselves when we don't have the things that we want in our life is still going to be the version of ourselves that has the things that we want. Meaning, once we achieve those goals and we're successful at reaching a certain dream for ourselves, the unfulfillment and the unhappiness that we felt within ourselves before is going to resurface. It may be put aside for a little bit because we're running on that dopamine from the goals that we just achieved, but eventually it's going to wear off and eventually it's going to show how at peace we are with ourselves. One thing I always believe is that life was about becoming a different person externally, but really it's about becoming that person internally and growing and maturing and learning to be at peace with ourselves and also genuinely enjoying our own company, which means embracing the present moment, allowing ourselves to be imperfect throughout the process, enjoying every step of the journey. I wasted so many, I shouldn't say wasted, I feel like I rushed through so many chapters of my life just waiting to get to the next one, waiting till I achieve that certain goal 6 months from now, which stopped me from living in that moment. It stopped me from being content. It creates that toxic relationship of never truly being okay sitting in the moment with yourself. We can choose to be the version of ourselves right now that has everything that we want without even having those things, because it really is about creating that feeling, learning to just be without having to show anything for that feeling or emotion. We owe it to ourselves to make the ultimate goal in our life internal peace, internal contentment, fulfilling ourselves, and deciding that we can choose that right now in this moment. We can allow ourselves to make mistakes and be imperfect and not know how everything is going to work out and still be happy. I think the best way to approach this is to start practicing being still with ourselves, feeling like we don't always need to fix everything, feeling like we can be okay even when we don't have everything figured out in our life. That is how it starts. That is what I'm teaching myself in this season of my life. And I'm learning that the more I especially teach myself this, the more that it is okay to show up imperfect and to make mistakes without feeling like it defines my worth or what I am capable of achieving in my life. I ultimately decide that for myself. Obviously, I wish I knew this at a younger age, so I felt like I could enjoy my 20s a little bit more, that I felt like I could just figure it out along the way and still be present in the moment. Because I only started to realize this once I started to have certain results that I had always wanted, that I'd always placed my happiness in them. I always felt like that external goal was going to finally make me happy with myself, or just content with life in general. Now that I've achieved many things that were on my vision board, like living in the city I've always wanted, having the apartment I've always wanted, feeling better in my body, having a better relationship with myself, just many external goals that I'd always envisioned or that my younger self prayed for. Once they were achieved and that dopamine wore off, I felt the weight of that emptiness, felt the weight of that loneliness. And I also realized that a huge aspect of feeling better within yourself is having shared life, having a community, having people that see every different version of you and still accept you. If we are willing to accept other people and be part of a community and have friends in our life and share life with others and still understanding they are on the way to becoming who they need to be, and we still love them, we still accept them, then we can absolutely learn to do that within ourselves. And it's so crucial to really grow in your life. And I would argue that once we start to embrace this and allow ourselves to enjoy the present moment and being still with ourselves, that is when we actually start to achieve more things that we want. We start to become a magnet to attracting the life that we've always desired for ourselves. Let this just be your sign to slow down in your life, to embrace this chapter. You don't need to rush through your life. You don't need to focus on the next best thing. You just need to learn to be comfortable with who you are in this moment and realize that it's enough, that it's okay. And once you start to adopt the habit of that and teaching yourself how to do that, that is when you will expand so much and grow and actually become a magnet for anything that you want to achieve in your life. Any status that you want, any version of yourself that you want to be, it's waiting on the other side of feeling content and fulfilled within yourself without needing external circumstances, things, whatever goal it is to actually validate that. I am on a journey of just growing, expanding as a person, and allowing myself to reach my potential, but also allowing myself to be imperfect throughout that process. If you want to continue to grow, if you want to understand what it truly takes to level up your life and become that version of yourself that you cannot stop dreaming about. It's also why I started a community on Patreon, because I want all of us to help each other grow. I want to normalize all the unfiltered growth, raw moments, and vulnerability that it actually takes to step into the version of ourselves that we are capable of becoming in our life. It is not always perfect. We are going to make mistakes. We're going to be imperfect. And yet we're still going to become that version of ourselves that we truly dream of becoming in our life. I'm going to put that in the description below if that's something that you're interested in. And then I will see you guys in the next video.